Welcome in to Red River North, right here on Total Coverage Sports. Randy Heitz, Dave Myrick, 107.7 The Franchise, flagship station of Oklahoma athletics, and that includes, don't look now, boys and girls, the Oklahoma Center football team. They're a legit title contender right in the playoff hunt as they go down to beat at the Alabama Crimson Tide in Tuscaloosa last week. Randy, you and I did a show last week, and both of us said it'd be close, but did not see that coming. Can't say enough about the job they did.
We both thought it'd be close. I mean, did I think they have a chance to win? Yes, but did I think they would? No. I mean, you're going to Alabama, who had won, was it 17 straight?
Yes.
Hadn't lost a game in Tuscaloosa in conference since 2019. It was hard to imagine that, they're going to win this game, just with everything. And did a lot of things go right for Oklahoma? Yes. But for everyone that sits there and acts like they got breaks, a lot of the breaks they got, they created. And I think that's where you got to give it up to this team defensively, especially.
Yeah, no doubt. I've heard the same thing. Like, well, without the turnovers Alabama gave them, hold up just a second. One was a perfectly executed peanut punch when Ryan Williams was dumb and just didn't go down. The other was Taylor Wine absolutely whipping the left tackle to get around in the strip sack of Ty Simpson. And the third was a blitz call that, look, it took Alabama off guard. They weren't prepared for it. It made Ty Simpson get the ball out of his hands quick. The defensive back, Eli Bowen, read it. And lo and behold, I mean, this stuff is good defensive execution, I see, opposed to the other team making mistakes. You can tell when that happens, and there's a difference.
Well, and it just kind of goes back to, we said when Oklahoma wasn't getting the turnovers early in the season, as good as the defense played, law of averages are going to equal out by the end. And it's kind of what's happening. And to your point on the peanut punch with, on Ryan Williams, that goes back to, hey, it just equals out from the Ole Miss game. I mean, Isaiah Satania, think about it. Yeah, he was jumping in there and got hit in the hospital. Things happen. And, and that's kind of where you give it up to this team. They never quit. They never stop fighting. And again, we can criticize the offense, but I thought, I hadn't thought about it this way until Kelly Gregg actually said it today. He wasn't defending the offense because it's got its struggles. But he's like, guys, when there's 3 possessions where the offense really doesn't get the ball or gets it on a short field, how do you expect them to get yards? It's kind of one of those, you look at this game, and in that second half, when they needed to drive the ball to get a field goal, they did early on, in the second half. So it's not perfect. It's not great offensively, but they're doing enough. And I think that's what we said all along. If this defense could be what we thought it could be, you don't need a world-beating offense. You just need to do enough and let the defense handle business. And right now, that game plan's working against 2 really good teams over the last 2 games they played.
And 2 really tough places to pull it off, Randy. I mean, the offense, in my opinion, the first half, they put together pretty decent drives against Alabama. The problem they run into, they're not good enough to overcome mistakes, like a holding penalty. That absolutely kills this offense, and that's what sets them back. But when you're giving possessions to your defense and they take it down and score for you, that's one off the board that your offense, you can't look at what they may or may not have done on top of that. I said on a different show this morning, Alabama's good defensively, Randy. They're top 20 in the country total defense. They got athletes. They can play, and that's a tough place to hear and execute and all that fun stuff. And Oklahoma, like you just talked about, we thought if the offense would just kind of get out of the way and not do stupid stuff to hurt the football team, this defense is good enough to win football games. And you see if they take care of the football and play pretty clean, they're tough to beat, man. They're tough out.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
And that's still, yet again, that's without Mateer playing like Mateer. Is he closer, in my opinion, to the first part of the season than he was in the middle part of the season? 100%. But he's still not that guy we saw through 4 games to start the year. And, and that's where you're like, hey, John, just take care of the ball. Run the ball. Make the throws you need to make. And don't turn it over. And that's what this team has gotten really good at over the last 2 weeks. And then on top of that, back to the defense. They finally almost found the gold rush of turnovers. They can't rely on that every game, but I don't think you have to rely on that every game as long as this defense unit does what it's capable of doing.
Yeah, I expect the offense, to play better and put up better numbers because you have to think they're not always going to get that dagger holding penalty. They're not always going to get that illegal formation on a two. That just is so good. It hasn't really mattered. Another unit that we need to talk about, special teams. They beat Alabama in special teams, helped win the game. The peanut punch was part of that. Satania's punt return. And, of course, Tate Sandell, Mr. Daisy Dukes himself. The guy is he's become a legit weapon, the best kicker in college football. I did not see that coming, but he's one of the more important portal pickups of the entire offseason.
Without a doubt.
And I think the other one we didn't mention there that had a couple of off games, but really I thought played pretty well on Saturday is Grayson Miller, punting the ball, pinning them back deep a couple of times. But on Tate Sandell, I mean, I saw your tweets earlier today. I know I don't follow kickers around the country. I have no problem in saying that. But it's hard for me to believe he is now, 7 of 7 from 50 yards plus, that there's somebody that deserves the Lou Groza Award more than what Tate Sandell has done, at a high level in pressure situations. He's not out there going 7 or 7 for a bad team that's not in games and they're just out there kicking 50-yarders, getting beat 35-3. I mean, it's been impressive, and they've come at key, crucial times. I mean, so yeah, I think he's a Lou Groza Award and maybe the best portal pickup in the country.
I can't argue with that. Harry James Taylor in here, UCO transfer, has been unbelievable. Also, yeah, Roll Chose, the kid, he got off an absolute nuke on the peanut punch. The turnover by Ryan Williams, that was an absolute bomb of a kick that backed him up and allowed time for the coverage to get down there. So special teams has been, just that, special for OU. The defense is right there. We're all just kind of waiting for the offense to take that step. I don't know if it can take that leap this year, but Randy, I don't know if it has to. I don't know if they need 300 yards and 3 touchdowns or 150 yards from Xavier Robinson. Just be good enough and don't mess things up with turnovers and penalties. And this formula is winning football games for Oklahoma.
In the long haul,
I do think you need to at least be getting up to 300, 325, total yards. Because back to, again, the point, you're not going to get 3 turnovers where you don't have the ball as much or playing on a short field. So I think, if you can get that, that's just the main ball control and time of possession. That would be great. And I think maybe they could get there. The bad part for Oklahoma, it feels like every time you take a step forward health-wise, you take a step back. And I know they weren't on the availability report, but we both know, which I kind of wondered, and it came out after the game, Xavier Robinson, was banged up and hurt. That's why, down the stretch, the last 3 drives, you didn't really see him except third down. Why did he come in on third down? The better blocker for John Mateer, I mean, that's kind of what happened. Torrey Blaylock still not back 100% after his injuries, from early season a couple of weeks ago. And I just feel like they need some of that help, and you kind of hope they catch that break. But let's see what happens this weekend with the running game, because I'm not sure how healthy Robinson's going to be. I'm not sure how healthy Blaylock's going to be. I mean, Brent even said we're going to have to change some things up, maybe rotation-wise, and that's because of the health. No running backs listed, though, Dave. That was interesting yesterday.
It is, Randy, and as you know, I've done a lot. Same with you with the Mid-Del school systems, where of course Xavier came from, Carl Albert, and know quite a few people there. And according to guys that know Xavier and talk with him on a daily basis, he said he's 100% and good to go. Now we all saw the hit to the knee that made him come out when he came back in the game. He had kind of a wrap around that. Maybe it was just a stinger, a bruise. I don't know, but. They're going to need him. I mean, I've even heard Jaron Kanik maybe getting touches in the rotation. That, to me, is how far down on the depth chart they are due to injuries. I mean, Taylor Tatum not listed on the availability report. Do we finally see Tatum in the ball game? That's pretty risky after not playing the last 6 games. But, hey, all hands on deck.
Well, I could see at least.
Say they don't want to get them beat up as much, even with X being, 100%. Because, that hit looked bad, and that could have been just when his leg was sore during the game. It was hard to come back and go 100% full go against Alabama. But at the same time, if you can get 5 carries from Tatum just to take it off, and keep Robinson healthy, I could see that. I kind of wonder if we won't see that. I don't know if I feel better about Tatum being the one back there or Connect. I mean, Jaron, it's like, yeah, I know he's played well at the tight end and he was a running back in high school. Is that really what you want to see in this stage? I mean, Dave, they're 2 games away from hosting a college football playoff game.
They are.
And it's
they are.
And it's kind of weird to think, ooh, is that what you want to risk right now? What is the bigger risk?
Yeah.
And they're in that spot right now, but every team in the country is in that spot.
Well, you have to win first, right?
Yeah.
If you don't have running backs, you've got to find someone to carry the ball. Yeah, that's a risky move. Harry James Taylor asked, does all hands on deck mean Jaden Knott? No, it does not. That is the one guy I can pretty much guarantee you not going to play.
I would think not.
But at this rate, Dave, I think it depends on what happens in the game. I mean, I think if they have to throw him out there, he's thrown out there at this point in time.
Well,
Javonte Barnes.
If Tatum gets his leg chopped off, or Robinson loses an arm, Blaylock, loses his head, then yeah, we'll see Ott. But other than that, no, I don't think so. But I just said it. You have to win these games, Randy, and this is the point I want to bring up. This is where I would be optimistic if I'm Harry James, if I'm an OU fan. These are typically games that Brent Venables has lost in Norman. These next 2 coming up are games that he would stub his toe. This year was kind of trending like that, right? You get the 1 win at Tennessee that nobody saw coming, and that tracks. Nebraska the first year, that was up in Lincoln. The next year they get the Texas win. That was great. And then last year they surprised Alabama. But that was kind of it for those seasons. They couldn't really build on or capitalize down the stretch. What makes this different is what they just went and did on the heels of beating the Volunteers in Heelan to go on the road at Denny. This is a legit, if they can get this offense any type of rhythm, shout. This is a hell of a team to beat.
And granted, they only
put highlight videos together and you hear locker room stuff pretty much only after wins. But the last 2 games, I mean, to your point with Brent and what I feel like there's a difference. I mean, not only when he did the statement, before the Tennessee game, the reason they're on prime time is Oklahoma's in town, it's almost like, I'm not saying like he never had that belief in his first 3 years at Oklahoma, that the team was really at that level. But even when you watch the OU DNA stuff, a couple of years ago that was on ESPN Plus for the last 2 years and everything,
you could tell it was
talking with confidence. And I almost felt like when that talking, I was watching those episodes going, I don't know if this is a staff believes this team's there yet. They're trying to convince the team, Whereas like when he says that stuff about Oklahoma's in town, or Chavis is talking about, they call it Sweet Home Alabama and they're sweet for a reason. It's that brashness that you hear about coaches in a locker room when they know, what, we got the horses to run and compete with anyone. We're ready to get our team fired up this way, not in a fake bravado. And that's why I'm interested to see how this team comes out this week, and plays against Missouri. I think they win, but if it's like Brent in the last few years, and even if they win, I don't think it's going to be a blowout if it's not like the Brent in the last few years. This is when they're kicking a Tate Sindel field goal to win it in the last minute if it's like the last few years. If it's like how I feel it's changed, this is when they win by 7 to 10 points, and you're not sweating it in the last 3 minutes of the fourth quarter.
No, I agree completely. I think you're going to see a true freshman quarterback for the Missouri Tigers. I think their strength is the run game with Ahmad Hardy. He's really good. But that is the strength of the OU team itself, is that front 7 and stopping the runs. That's bad news for Missouri. If the offense, can take any type of step at all, I see Oklahoma winning comfortably to where in the fourth quarter people are, checking scores from around the country and having conversations, maybe even heading out to the parking lot. But if it's like Brent of the previous years, this team will take a step back. They won't be able to sustain that fight that we saw on the road. This is going to be a different deal. You won't have your back to the wall, so to speak, of being the hunters. Now they're the hunted, and Missouri's coming in to spoil their playoff chance. And that's a different situation for Oklahoma that they're going to have to adapt to. Brent Venables is going to have to adapt his coaching to it, and it's going to be a test. I mean, Missouri is good. Their front 7 is legit.
No doubt about it. How about this for some, I guess it's not breaking news. I didn't see it 45 minutes ago from Thamel. I can't wait to see the availability report. Pete Thamel Sources: Missouri is expected to upgrade Bo Perbillo to questionable, and availability report, and he's medically cleared to play on Saturday. It'll come down to a coach's decision with the player's input on how he looks and feels in order for him to play at Oklahoma.
This is just Drinkowitz messing with the situation. All right, reading that, I think he's going to play now.
I kind of wonder
Wonder too, and we had a gentleman on from the Columbian News, and what's funny is here's a reporter that covers him all the time. He doesn't see any way in the world he could play.
Really?
Because he said he was basically saying, yeah, he went through those warm-ups last week before the game and everything, and he acted like just not right, so who knows? And I think it's Drinkowitz playing a couple of things here, and it could be that he could possibly play, but also, would you not want to put that into Brent Venables' mind and Oklahoma's defense mind? You got to prepare for him because Zollers, I think, is a really good young quarterback, but we just saw what Brent can do to a veteran. I know Simpson's not a veteran in the sense started multiple years, but he's got more, an older kid at quarterback at Alabama. Look what they did to him.
Yep.
Look what they did to Joey Aguilar. That's nothing that they want to walk into with a freshman quarterback going in against Brent Venables and that defense. So this is going to be really interesting going into Saturday.
Either way, this is Drinkowitz just messing with people. Whatever happens, it's him. I mean, Zollers is good. The one thing Perbula does better is run. He's the more mobile quarterback, and that's where you question the injury. If I'm an OU fan, I would much rather see Zollers back there. He's more of a statue in the pocket. That doesn't bode well with Oklahoma's pass rush, Randy. But this entire game is going to come down to Ahmad Hardy and the OU front seven. Can they shut him down? I think that he's good enough. He will get a run or two. Now, is that to the house for points? Is that to set up first and goal? Or is that pretty well contained for a 25-yard run that Oklahoma gets down pretty quick? I think those are all going to add up to whether or not this thing is close or not in the fourth.
No doubt about it.
I'm with you. Hardy's going to get a run. It kind of reminds me a lot of what Hayes from Michigan, really solid running back. And second half starts and he gets bust off a long run, Hardy has been dominant for a reason. 300 last week. He's had, two other games, I believe, over 200 yards. 1,000 yards, Dave. This is what's incredible about it to me. 1,000 yards after contact this year for Hardy.
Yeah.
That's pretty incredible. Now, again, that still plays into OU's hands, in the sense of running back and running game. That's why I'm like you. Does he get one long run off? Yeah. But I don't think he gets 3 or 4. And that's what I think Missouri would need to actually win this game. I think Oklahoma's defense can handle that. And that's why Perbillo playing and not playing is really big in this game for Missouri, because even though Missouri, it's easy to go, they are a good team, but they've beaten nobody so far this year. Every time they've played somebody, they've got beat. They struggled against Mississippi. They struggled against Auburn going to overtime, or not Mississippi State, I'm sorry. And so that's kind of the thing. You look at these teams and you're going, all right, OU just still take care of business. I think we're all getting obsessed with looking at Missouri's record, which is a good record. But if they just go take care of business, I don't see how Missouri wins this game personally, just talent-wise and everything involved. Heck, let's be honest, Dave. They should have lost last year to Oklahoma on their home field.
Yeah.
And they were a much better team than Oklahoma. And if Jackson Arnold doesn't stick his head up his ass, they win that game.
Look, and I guarantee you Oklahoma's not forgot that. That was a painful loss. And these two teams, these two programs don't like each other, Randy. The fan bases can't stand each other. I think even some media members don't like each other. And now they're coming to the Lions Den in Norman for pretty much a revenge game for Oklahoma. OU's going to have to be careful right out of the gate. There's a lot of excitement now. You're a title contender. You're a playoff contender. You've got 2 big wins under your belt. To not get too overhyped, right? You want to fire up the crowd, but you can't jump out of a gap from excitement and look up and Hardy is 80 yards down the field. That kind of stuff is what could come back to haunt. That's where I kind of get back to this is a different deal for Brent Venables, Randy. Really, since he's been at Oklahoma, been a head coach, period, to have these kind of expectations now going into a big game at home.
No doubt about it.
It's kind of funny for the last, this will be 3 weeks in a row now. I think everyone said biggest game in Brent Venables' coaching career at Oklahoma. And they have been. And it's not just making light of it or making it out bigger than what it is. This is. And I don't mean it. I think this being the biggest game in Brent Venables' coaching career at Oklahoma, it's a little different than the last two, especially the one against Tennessee. That was more about, hey, if they don't win this game, this could go backward, downhill fast, and Brent is out of a job at the end of the year. I think at least I feel this way, and I felt it since they won at Tennessee. There's no job on the line anymore right now.
Agreed.
This is a big game because Oklahoma can truly take that next step in the new playoff format to kind of go, instead of saying we belong, that we belong. If you're the coaching staff, you can sit there and say that at that point in time. If you're these players, Kobe McKenzie said it earlier this week, best on the franchise, when he said, everything's in front of us. Everything we wanted to play for is still there. That's why these two games are huge. And hearing a veteran leader like that talk makes you feel good going into this weekend, that there is no, man, we just got off two great wins. We're going into Missouri, and it's going to not say, they would say it's going to be a cakewalk, but they know what's in front of them. And that's why I expect a very focused team coming into this Saturday. And almost in a way, I thought they might have been ranked 7th in the playoff reveal yesterday, Dave. I think being 8th kind of leaves a little bit of chip on their shoulder still.
Oh, they could have been tied for 6th. I mean, just make every team from 5 to 10 tied for 6th, AP. Yeah, CFP 1I. Got that cool guy in here. Good evening, gentlemen. Good evening. Thanks for being on with us tonight, talking about the big one against the Missouri Tigers coming up in Norman, Oklahoma. Of course, Missouri gets the improbable win in Faurot Field last year when Jackson Arnold, as Randy apropos said, stuck his head up his ass and gave the game away in the last minute. But there have been some transfers. Theo Weiss at wide receiver, went up from Oklahoma. Then Caden Green. The Williams-Winari recruitment did not go well for Oklahoma. There's some bad blood. Again, these teams don't like each other. I expect a feisty game, as Josh Manning never questioned the loyalty, Dave. I'm in the air on the way to Boston, going to Boston, Massachusetts.
Nice.
My boy, Josh Manning. Cool, man. Swing by Fenway for me, and he's watching us midair. In fact, take the pods out.
David Sandlin.
Say hi to David Sandlin. Take the pods out midair. Turn the volume all the way up so the entire flight can hear our greatness. Dave, did I tell you OU would win? Yeah, you did. I think you also said Texas would beat Georgia. So did I. Who looks like a dumbass right now? We will talk about the Texas Longhorns in the back half of the show, Randy. But this game is intriguing to me in Norman. For everything we just talked about, Brent has not found himself here in 4 years as a head coach in college football. Now you have expectations. It's on your doorstep. The fan base has a reason to be excited. Now just don't mess it up, right? Win these 2 winnable games. But these 2 teams coming in, Missouri in particular, they've not had the year they wanted to have. They would love nothing more than to knock OU out of the playoff race.
No doubt. And
Call me crazy. I'm going to be honest. I think this is the toughest of the 2. And I say it for this reason,
Yes.
not because of talent level or anything. I kind of feel like LSU, they made the coaching change, interim coach is in there. You got that energy when they went to was it Alabama after that? Where did they go after that? I forget which game, but they played really tough for the last 2-3 weeks, right?
Yeah.
And you kind of saw them get away from that a little last week, even though they rallied back to beat Arkansas. But I think that's because everyone rallies back to beat Arkansas right now. So it's kind of one of those deals that I look at this game as being the last team that's fully engaged.
Yep.
that they're going to play.
Before a playoff hits. I feel like, when LSU comes to town, I'm not going to say they're going to roll over and play dead, but I just don't think that's going to be the tough one. I think this is the one, to your point. Drinkowitz wants to ruin Oklahoma's playoff hopes. He doesn't need that in all the recruiting battles they're trying to battle with Oklahoma in, because speaking of recruiting, look at the last week. All of a sudden, dominoes are starting to fall. Bob Prisbilla today didn't think Oklahoma was going to have a class of 26 this year. Looks like it's trending that way, and the last ones are at least 4-star plus recruits that they're getting. So that's stuff that like Drinkowitz wants to fight against right now if he stays at Missouri. Maybe that could be the other difference. How engaged is he? Because he's trying to be mentioned for a lot of other jobs.
People are idiots then. I don't know what they're seeing in the guy. I mean, he's a good X's and O's coach, I guess, but I wouldn't want him to be the leader of my program. But that could just be personal stuff, seeing the guy the last 2 years and the way he acts when things happen. I don't like the guy. I don't think he's a very good head coach. Harry James Taylor, could Bama throw a wrinkle into the home playoff situation even if OU wins? O-U-T. I don't think so. That's just me personally. I don't see that.
Let's put it this way.
My only way they could do it, and granted, would they have the data point? I know what he's meaning because they would go play A&M in the title game. And if they
Yeah.
won that, I get what you're saying there, Harry. But my only thing, even though they would have that data point, for the argument they're currently making to not having Miami and Notre Dame ranked, I don't know, Dave. That could be because right now you don't have Miami ranked over Notre Dame,
Yeah.
and they have the head-to-head matchup. You could say Oklahoma has a head-to-head matchup. I think the best way, if there's a way for Alabama to meet Georgia, I need to go through all the scenarios. That would be your best SEC title game, in my opinion, for Oklahoma. Because even then, in my opinion, if Alabama were to beat Georgia, I think Oklahoma jumps Georgia at that point in time.
Because that would
Well,
be 2 wins.
And so I kind of feel like Oklahoma's in pretty good shape to host regardless.
I
Or
do
you
too.
just, or how about this, guys? You just hope for one other thing. God, Oklahoma fans, you may shoot me for saying this. Root for Lincoln Riley this weekend.
Yeah.
Lincoln
I
Riley
just
Wins, I think it guarantees, and I mean 100% guarantees
that would guarantee it. I don't know how much the committee, if they're not going to really penalize teams that lose their conference championship game, I don't know how much stock they're going to put into that. I don't know how much they're going to reward a team for winning it either. I don't know how much motivation really exists, for these teams playing in it. Aren't going to go to the playoffs now. Alabama, that would be a different deal. Both of them are definitely going to be in. Well, Alabama, if they lost, probably not with 3 losses.
Yeah,
And
Alabama.
we've got
That's important
Josh
to
Manning,
Alabama.
Georgia, damn important to Alabama. They got to get past Auburn. Speaking of love to ruin someone's playoff chance, Josh Manning says no. Georgia would not get jumped. Bardicus, Joshy's distracting himself from the upcoming Bobby P. Legacy game. I love having Aggies and Longhorns in here. This is awesome. But Randy, I can see both sides of it. Personally, I don't think if Oklahoma wins out, I think they're going to host round 1. And the team I saw they would be hosting would be the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, which that would break college football.
And the only other possibility I think is USC. Back to that point, I think they could slip in there. Either way would break college football. It would be epic. And here's the thing for Oklahoma fans: you haven't had a night conference game this year. You play Notre Dame or USC, at least I think you get another night game this year.
Yeah, I guarantee you would. Oh, man, can you imagine the coverage if Lincoln Riley comes back to Oklahoma for the playoffs? Man, oh, man. But Oklahoma, work to be done. Randy, this Missouri team, yeah, you pointed it out. Every good team they played, they've got their ass whipped. Not ass whipped. I mean, Alabama, they were in that till the very end. With Bo Pribula, that's an important caveat. Now, A&M, not really. A&M pretty much controlled that game, but that was against the backup quarterback and true freshman, Zoller, who kind of looked like it at times. So, I mean, you have to ask yourself, is it just a situation of the quarterback, in and out, injuries, and that's why they've lost these better teams? Or are they just, decent but not really that great? I think they're pretty good, and I think they'll be highly motivated this weekend.
I'm right there
with you. I think they will. I'm sorry, I just saw some other news and I'm trying to figure out if it's a real source, not for OU, but some other news. Anyway, it has to do with the SEC and anyway. No, I think you're right. That's pretty much everything we've talked about this game. You're going to see Missouri come out focused and trying to play their best. I don't know. I've watched Missouri this year and they're a solid team. But I really thought last year's Missouri team was a really good team all the way around. A solid defense, a really good offense. I haven't seen a lot out of this offense other than Hardy. And Pribolo makes it a lot better. Don't get me wrong. But at the same time, I don't see as big of threats on the outside, the Luther Burden, the Theo Weiss, and again, if it's all a running game, I feel really good about where this Oklahoma defense is. If they had the experience at receivers like they had last year out there, this would scare me a lot more than it does right now.
I agree with that. Look, and I think the start is going to be critical for OU. If you can kind of give the home crowd a reason to get behind you and Norman and be loud and have some confidence, I like the way that trends. However, if I say Hardy busts a long run early and Missouri gets the lead, then people in Norman start getting a little bit anxious. It gets later in the day. It's getting hotter. People are pissed off. Then, yeah, I mean, the pressure starts to really amp up. Make no mistake, the pressure is on Oklahoma this weekend, not Missouri. They've pretty much got nothing to lose. They're just playing spoiler, not to mention the fact Brent has not been here before. So that's why, for all the reasons above, I've got a close game this weekend, but I do think Oklahoma pulls away in the second half because of what we're talking about. The weapons are limited for Missouri against a really good Oklahoma defense. It's just, can Oklahoma keep improving this year and not regress like the previous 3 years like we've seen them do?
Yeah, no doubt about it. And
I think one thing that'll help this team a lot of times, you look at it and go, man, they came off those two big games on the road. They get the win. It's an 11 a.m. kick. Is it going to be a lackadaisical crowd? Is everyone going to kind of sleepwalk through the first half? I think this may end up being the best 11 a.m. crowd we've ever seen in Norman.
Agreed.
Because I think it's going to come in fully jacked up, man.
I mean, due to what we're talking about, you've got a playoff berth on the line. The fans know that. They're fired up and ready to go. And then they hate Missouri.
No doubt. Hey,
Do you want that breaking news?
Is it from a real source? Did we figure it out?
Touchdown
Alabama Magazine, right?
Okay.
And this report comes via Tide 100.9.
Okay.
The game with Ryan Fowler.
Again, legit. I went to the website, the legit site. The Central Daily Times Penn State beat reporter John Sarber says Kalen DeBoer has become a top target for Penn State in their search for a new head coach.
Holy cow. Is that really surprising, Randy? I never thought the fit at Alabama was good.
It's not surprising, but if that happens, we think what's going on with Lane Kiffin right now, because our friend Keegan Renault, who covers college football and does a lot around it and everything, always said the only job that Kiffin should leave for is Alabama. Can you imagine? Let's just say this goes down.
Yeah.
This goes down before Ole Miss and Florida gets hired. How many memes are we going to see out there of airplanes flying to Tuscaloosa, to Gainesville, to Baton Rouge? I mean, it's going to be like a free-for-all. I'm hoping that's true. I don't think he leaves Alabama, but that craziness in the offseason will be nuts in the coaching search.
I mean, okay, yeah, say he does. Say DeBoer takes Penn State, and then Alabama swoops and gets Lane Kiffin. Then what for Florida, right? Where do they look? Then what for Auburn? Where do they – I mean, there's some big names out there. And I'll tell you what, if Lane Kiffin is your top choice, you're in some serious shit. This guy, to me, is the most overrated coach in the history of college football. He's never even played for a conference championship, fired on the tarmac at USC, a disaster at Tennessee. He's been all right at Ole Miss, but I do not get all the hype around this guy. Why every time there's a big-time opening, it's, oh, my God, Lane Kiffin, Lane Kiffin. If I'm a fan of Florida and Auburn or Penn State for that matter, I don't want this guy anywhere near my program. The problem is there's really nobody else out there right now, Randy, to point to. There's not that hot name.
Well, no, there's not. And that's why I think you're seeing some of these teams trying to go invade and go, hey, Kalen, you interested? Hey, Lane, because there's not that big up and coming. Like, I like the guy that's being mentioned for Oklahoma City, two of them, the Morris guy at North Texas and Golish at South Florida. But also when you look at what both of them have done, they aren't attractions for Alabama's, the Floridas, the Penn States, the LSU's. I think the only one that kind of is, and I'd still be leery to go get him right now because it's his third year of doing it, second year, John Summerall at Tulane.
Yeah.
I think he's proven that he can win as a coach, but has he really proven that he can reestablish that roster? Because he's still doing that with a lot of Fritz's talent, and so it's kind of like, is that who you want to do if you're a big-time program like Auburn, like Florida, like LSU? To me, there's still question marks behind that.
No, there is really the one guy that's lock and key coming and win, Cignetti at Indiana, but you're not going to pry him out of that deal he just made. And once they got that locked up, it's like good luck to everybody else. That's why if you're an OU fan watching this, you need to thank God that Brent Venables has won the last two games and you're in the clear as far as that mess goes, because that's a place you do not want to be at the end of the season, is trying to hire a coach in this climate. Harry James Taylor. I think UF might also look at Dorkowitz with Mizzou. They might, just because what we're talking about, Randy. There's really nobody else out there, right?
Well, exactly, and I think that's the reason his name is starting to pop up on these coaching searches. Whether it's I personally think Kiffin right now is staying at Ole Miss, and he's playing with
Oh yeah.
every school out there in the country just for fun. And I think that's why you're starting to see Drinkowitz pop up as, hey, is he a candidate here? Hey, Kenny Dillingham at Arizona State, who I didn't think would leave Arizona State necessarily, and I still don't know if he will, is all of a sudden the betting favorite to get the LSU job, even though Kiffin hasn't said no or anything like that. That's where it leads me to believe something has happened there that we just don't know about yet. But to your point, is it kind of maybe one of those times where instead of a head coach, any of these programs come open, do they need to stop looking there and go, hey,
Maybe there's that top.
defensive coordinator, that top offensive coordinator around the country that everyone's high on, we need to be the first one to give him the chance, kind of like Oklahoma did Bob Stoops back in 2000 or 99.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I remember OU fans at the time, Randy, were like, who? Bob who? And the guy that talks weird and wears a visor, yeah, he turned out to be okay. And I'll tell you what, this is kind of quiet between you and I. There's an OC out there. If I'm a top program, I'm looking at this guy he might be the best recruiter in college football. Brian Hartline at Oklahoma State, or Ohio State. Sorry, Buckeyes, to put that disrespect on your name, but the Buckeyes. Well, he was a wide receiver coach, now an OC, and he's recruited some of the biggest beasts in college football history. He'd be very high on my list, Randy, but these schools and their fan bases, they want that big name, that big splash. Unfortunately, there's none out there right now.
No doubt. And hey,
Since we're talking coaches, the real head scratcher to me, and I don't mean this because I know we have some A&M fans in there. I get Elko's done a great job this year, and I think he's going to do a good job, right? But how do you just get out of the Jimbo Fisher contract? And after a second year of a good run, number 3, a great run, could end up in a national title. You make him a top 5 coach in the country. Kind of reminds me of exactly what they did with Jimbo.
Yeah.
what?
Yeah, it is
So
what they did with Jimbo.
It's like, dude, learn your
Exactly
lessons.
what they I mean, look,
Extending
you have to think
A raise, but Jiminy Christmas.
well, you have to think they know something we don't, right? In terms of the two guys comparing each other, Mike Elko to me is a better coach than Jimbo Fisher, and they probably feel that. But still, that's playing with
One
fire.
has a national title, and one's in his second year as a head coach.
There's also that. So, look, okay. In this era that we're talking about, is the madness. If you feel you got a good coach, you want to get him locked up. You do not want to go through the crap all these other teams are going through. So I kind of see that. But, man, it's a dangerous game. But, all right, we've talked a lot too much about coaches. None of it affects Oklahoma, really. None of it really affecting Texas, though Sark has had an interesting week. The Texas Longhorns, Randy, I was wrong. I thought they would at least give Georgia a game, if not have a chance to win it. They were in there for 3 quarters. The fourth quarter, a disaster. Watching that unfold. But look, this to me was Kirby Smart over Steve Sarkisian. He's a miles better head coach right now, but he's pretty much better than anybody else in the country right now. But the gap is pretty substantial, and there was really no contest down the stretch.
No doubt. I mean,
That's why I tweeted at halftime. I was like, I don't think you even need to watch the second half in Athens. I mean, it's kind of one of those things, and I know you can say it was close. They got like Oklahoma. Texas did it. Interception, short field, and touchdown. But I had a bad feeling for Texas going in. Yeah, everyone goes, Arch had a great game against Vandy, right? 190 of his 300 yards were from behind the line of scrimmage. And I had a feeling Georgia's not going to miss those tackles. You do those screen passes, they're not going to miss them. And that's kind of what happened. And then Stockton, same thing. I really hate for Oklahoma to play him. I'm not saying he's the super quarterback, but he's a runner. He's a threat that can throw good enough that if you come up to play him in the run game, guess what? He's going to burn you. And that's kind of what happened with Stockton. You got lucky getting back behind the defensive backs and the safeties for Texas one time because, well, of Stockton's running ability and what he'd done on the 2 previous drives. I mean, Georgia's a dangerous team. The concern I would have still if I'm Texas, Georgia's off defense isn't a world beater this year. It's good.
and you only put
10 points up on the board. That's what would scare me right now if I'm Texas, especially when they have to play A&M at the end of the season.
I just think Texas offense is what they are. You know, we're 10 weeks in. It's not going to be this superhuman thing that we've seen in Austin the last couple of years. It's what they are. That they thought the defense was a strong suit, and they did play pretty well the first half. But Gunnar Stockton is like every Georgia quarterback I can recall. The guy looks like he should be selling insurance somewhere. If you walked by him in the grocery store, you wouldn't think anything of him. But yet you put a Georgia helmet on him, throw him in a big game, and the guy looks like the best quarterback on earth. And it's a long line of these guys that Kirby keeps developing, to his credit. There's just a culture in Athens about winning big football games and winning, period. That's why they keep doing it. No, I would not want any part of the Georgia Bulldogs. They get better as the season goes. Bart, that was an incredible hate watch. Not going to lie, talking about watching Texas lose. And then, yeah, Josh Manning defense. A&M's defense is a cupcake defense. Let's talk about that A&M game, Randy. That was interesting. I didn't really know it was happening, right? I'm in the booth at SMU calling a game, and people are like, hey, A&M is losing, 13-3, and then 23, and 30-3. I'm like, oh, well, hell, they're done. To their credit, they come back and win. That shows a lot of moxie. It shows a lot of talent. But, man, that also showed some holes in the A&M defense.
Well,
And not only that, as many holes as it showed in the A&M defense in the first half, they filled a lot of those holes. They gave up nothing in the second half. They took control of it. And I don't think A&M's defense is necessarily great either. But, I mean, you can say each half. But I think what it really showed, why Shane Beamer should be fired. I mean, I'm sorry. There's literally no defense for losing a 27-point lead. Fine, you can give up some points in the second half. You can let them score 24 points. You have a 27-point lead.
Find a way to make 1 or 2
2 stops. Find a way to get in field goal range once. Move the ball. I mean, that was a total meltdown by South Carolina. Give credit to A&M for battling back and getting the win and fighting through that. But, oh, my God, South Carolina, that was just appalling. As good as you played in the second half, you didn't look like you know what football was in the second half.
Yeah, you got Lenora Sellers, right? We were all high on him preseason. I haven't changed. I think he's really good. Got a 27-point lead. I really thought when A&M scored, I think the first possession of the second half, and then South Carolina drove it and had a 4th and 1. They decided not to kick the field goal and go for it. I thought when A&M stopped him there, watch out. That thing's going to change, and it sure did. That's going to sting Shane Beamer. I love the guy from his time in Norman. He was always a classy guy, and everybody loves him, but to me, that was kind of the death nail for another job opening. I would be shocked if he's not fired from South Carolina after that. I think they'll wait till the season's over. But I'm not sure what that told me about A&M or didn't. I think they're a damn good football team, and they're capable of beating anybody. But if you come out and sleepwalk in this league at all, most teams are capable of making you pay for it.
I think what it did
show me about A&M, there have been times in years past with A&M, if they'd have got down 17. Game over, done. They're rolling up their tents and going home. That's where it does prove what Elko is as a head coach. He got that team fired up and got them to play the way he wanted them to play at the start of the game. So I think that is a very positive sign for A&M. But I'm like you, I'm not sure how good they still are because they've gotten to play some of the easier teams in the SEC and won those games and won them convincingly, a lot of them. So give them credit there. But yeah, I'm just still a little jury out on them. Are they truly one of the best 3 teams in the country? But with that being said, Dave, I kind of feel like outside of, and I really don't know, this may be my first year in a long time. I feel like throw 1 through 12 in a hat and you draw, 1 through 11, because whoever the G5 team is, they're not doing shit. But 1 through 11, you throw them in a hat and draw a name out and you tell me at the end of the playoffs, that's who's going to win the national title. I may get a few like, but, it's not like some years where you're like, there's no way they're going to beat Team X or they're going to beat Team Y, because I'm not even sure how good, as great as Ohio State's look, who have they played since Texas in week 1?
Nobody, man. That they do have some games coming up. We'll find out.
Yeah, I mean, that's right.
Like, they get to go to the Big House next week, Ann Arbor.
Yep. We'll find out
that's a
what they
lot.
are. I do think they're the best team in the country. I think Georgia is right there. In fact, the two played. I'd probably take the Bulldogs due to what we're talking about. Georgia's battle tested. I'm not sure you can really say the same about Ohio State, at least right now. Josh Manning firing back about the screen merchant comment, I guess. No, Randy, what happened is that our line of scrimmage plays were stopped because our playmakers kept screwing up. To be honest, I was calling a game.
Merchant. Arch is still a screen merchant.
I didn't get to see what he's talking about.
Literally
Josh,
the most
Overrated quarterback so far next to Jackson Arnold.
yeah, I mean those two are peas in a pod. Joshy, look, I just said it. Texas offense is what they are. When you've got a highly touted quarterback, ask Oklahoma fans last year with Jackson Arnold. When you got a guy like that doesn't live up to expectations, guess what? Your offense is not going to be what you thought, and Texas is not what all of us thought, and they're suffering for it.
look, I'll say this.
Dave, when you compare Oklahoma and Texas, I've said it, I think, from before they played in Dallas, and I've said it after. They're exactly the same teams, both of them, I feel like. I think the only difference in the second half of the season
Oklahoma's defense
has went to that next level. And I feel like a little bit Texas's defense over the last 4 games has regressed. You look at the point totals they've given up.
Yeah,
It's kind of scary right now for them because to just like it would be the same way for Oklahoma. If Oklahoma's defense was giving up 30 plus points in almost every game, Dave,
yeah,
their offense can't keep up. That's what we said about them going into Tennessee. Neither one of us thought they could beat Tennessee because I don't know if they can score enough. I don't know if they can score enough against Alabama. Well, the defense stepped up and did their part, and I feel like that's kind of the problem with Texas right now. These two teams are so much alike, it's not even funny this year.
yeah. Bart, screen merchant in all caps. The Aggies loving that. Josh Manning, I watched John Mateer throw 3 picks against a defense that let Blake Shapen throw for 300 yards. Yeah, John Mateer's not Blake Shapen, and that offense is not as good as Mississippi State. The OU offense has been a disappointment this year. There's no other way to say it. They're not as good as we thought they'd be. They're doing just enough to win football games. But to call it like it is, they've got lucky the last 2 games that they've got a bunch of turnovers. Yeah, they've forced them. And they got a field goal kicker that can make 90-yard field goals wearing Daisy Dukes. Without that, they don't win the last 2. Not every team has that. But yeah, the OU offense, Randy's got to play better. They know it. John Mateer knows it. It's not a secret. If Oklahoma wants to go to where we're talking about and where they want to go, got to go.
no doubt. Yeah,
The offense has got to get things together. And again, they don't need to go score a ton of points. It's about ball control, not turning the ball over, not getting your some of this again, like last weekend in the first half. Yeah, you look at the end of the first half and time of possession was, I believe, 16 to whatever, 12 or whatever, it's like not that doesn't add up, right? No, it does. Yeah. Anyway, whatever. 14, yeah. And no, it was 18 to 12. Because you're like, dang, 6 minutes, this defense, especially when they've had R. Mason out, you weren't sure how healthy Jaden Jackson was. The defense was already a little thinner, right? You needed ball control. And all of a sudden you go, oh, crap. As great as those turnovers were, Eli, go down at the 5. It's like you needed a little thing like that, but that's where all of a sudden Alabama gets the ball a lot more. And that's where this team has been able to figure out ways to get around some of those things like that in time of possession. This week, though, I feel like they are to that point after 2 weeks in a row of that. It's almost better if they could just find a way to have some ball control drives, not even scores. Fine. If it ends in a Tate Sindel field goal, that's fine, but whatever. But make it a 4 or 5 minute drive where your defense gets a legit break on the sideline instead of, hey, you went and scored after a turnover and you went and scored in a minute and a half, 2 minutes later, defense is right back out there for 4 minutes. It's just kind of how it goes.
Yeah, and look, I've said it all year, establish the run. I'm not even going to put that in this term for ball control, right? If you want a nice long drive, you can use the short passing game as an extension of that and move the chains because that's what Ben Arbuckle's going to do. He's going to keep throwing the football to be damned, and then they're good at that. You had Deion Burks on an out route for first down, then go back. Defense a chance to regroup. Give them a chance to breathe because Missouri is going to come in and try to pound Ahmad Hardy and he's more than capable of breaking tackles 1,000 yards after contact, you said earlier in the show. So defense can get wore down with that, Randy. And if the offense is going 3 and out, that's not going to help their cause. So there are some formulas here for Missouri to come in and win this game. But in the end, I just don't see the weapons on the outside like we kind of talked about earlier. I don't see Hardy having enough of those explosive runs against this OU defense to win the football game. I think OU wins somewhere in the 27-17 range. I would definitely take the under if I'm out there listening.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah, hey, real fast, availability reports out.
Let's hear it.
Bo Perbillo
is questionable now for Missouri, just like Damel's report. Questionable for Oklahoma. Javante Barnes makes his appearance on the report. It wasn't on yesterday. That one's just an odd one. Gentry Williams and R. Mason Thomas, both questionable. Heath Zaida, doubtful.
But,
Yeah.
It's not the end of the world. And then the 3 that were out, the offensive linemen that have been hurt all year long, So really a pretty good injury report for Oklahoma and Missouri as well as we head into Friday. But yeah, pretty good signs. I don't know how much R. Mason's going to play this week, if he even will, especially if it's damp and everything else. You got that quad. You really can't afford to hurt it any worse if you're Oklahoma.
The fact he's questionable today, I don't think we'll see him, Randy. I really don't. And the fact that Taylor Wine played so well last week, and you got guys like PJ Adibe-Ore coming on, he's playing better off the edge. So I think if they feel they can rest him against a team that's not really known for a drop back passing scheme where R. Mason really excels, they probably will. I think if this was next week and OU has to win to get in to seal it, you probably see R. Mason Thomas, but I doubt you see Williams be a what if at Oklahoma. I think he could have been one of the best cornerbacks seen, but health never cooperated with the guy.
no doubt about it.
That's funny you mentioned cornerback that we could have seen at Oklahoma. That leads me to another conversation here about Oklahoma's defense. We've said all year long maybe the weak points is secondary.
Let's give it up to
how that unit has developed over the last month. I mean, Cortland Gilroy, who against Auburn had a bunch of bad pass interference calls or tough ones for a young kid going up against Coleman, and everything else. Eli Bowen coming off the injury. Look at the way he's playing. And a guy that I think has played really well that hasn't made the wow plays, that's Jacob Johnson. He's got in there and played some key snaps for there. That secondary, when we talk about how this defense has improved and stood up to the test the last 3 weeks, I think that's what everyone should focus on is the play of that secondary. Because if they wouldn't have made the vast improvements from the Auburn and the Texas game, I don't know if Oklahoma beats Tennessee and Alabama. But that secondary unit across the board, from the safeties to the cornerbacks, they have made vast improvements over the last month.
No, Brandon Hall in that safety room, my hat's off. I mean, Peyton Bowen, Robert Spears-Jennings have been outstanding. Both got a pick against Tennessee. Robert Spears-Jennings had one against Alabama, called back for a DPI, but they're in the right place, right time. And yes, Eli Bowen, how big was it getting him back and healthy? That guy is his own island. And the fact a true freshman, Cortland Guillory, opposite him, because of Gentry Williams' health problems his entire career, they had to have that from a guy. And for it to be a true freshman, unbelievable stuff. I mean, going man up against Cam Coleman, man up against Ryan Williams, and holding his own. He is a legit superstar. And no, they don't win without that secondary. And I think some things are a bit inflated. I think that OU played not to get beat over the top against Tennessee and Alabama. They gave up yards between the 20s. Everybody looked and, they put up 300 yards. They must suck. No, that was by design. I kind of like the fact people think that's a weak link of this team because the pass defense is still really, really good.
No doubt. And,
I'll go one step further. And I said it I was watching the game with my nephew on Saturday, and I said it to him when you're sitting there watching it, and I kind of thought the same thing in Tennessee. Brent, I feel like, has a bunch of stuff in his playbook. We've all heard the stories of how big his defensive playbook is. And it's almost like I feel like in the first half of both games, they did some things, they went out, and I almost feel like they were actually more aggressive against Tennessee than Alabama in the first half. And maybe it's because Tennessee got some of those big plays and scored early. And all of a sudden, the second half rolls around, and Josh thinks he knows what's happening. Kalen thinks he knows what's happening. And then it's almost like Brent goes, chapter 2, and it's like it's a whole different defense because we talk about what was it, 300 yards, but they had 297 in the second quarter almost, basically midway through the first through the second quarter. They had 80 yards in the second half, Alabama did.
Crazy.
And it's because they switched up blitzes, they switched up everything they were doing. And I feel like Brent just kind of sits there and goes, when do I need to pull these out? Oh, no, we're still in a close game. We're up by 3 or we're down by 3. Don't need to pull this out. And in the second half, okay, we're going to confuse the hell out of them when they don't have time to make adjustments. And I'm going to pull it out. And I almost felt like that's what Brent did last Saturday against Alabama.
That's what it looks like. I mean, Brent's second half adjustments, who would have thought, has been key to winning football games. That's not really been a strong suit the last 3 years. A lot of different stuff, Randy, with Brent Venables this year. A lot of different stuff with OU football. I wasn't quite there before the Alabama game because of what I said. Year by year, you see one surprise, but they can't really build off of it. This last week showed me, yeah, this is a different animal, and this team has every chance to go do something very special this year. It's out in front of them. You got 2 winnable games left in Norman. You do that. Who knows what can happen, man? It's been a fun ride, and I think it's only going to get more fun. Again, I've got Oklahoma 27-17-ish, somewhere around there, but they win the game.
Yeah, I'm kind of
in that same neighborhood. I had like 28-17 going into the game. I feel like, maybe they actually get by a game where all Sandell has to do is kick extra points. But I think Provillo could change that a little because I was counting on some of that 28. And I'll be honest, we don't know how good the offense can do against Missouri.
Yep.
I was thinking, a couple of touchdowns out of the defense from the freshman. If he's not playing the whole game or if he doesn't play at all, maybe they don't get the 2 picks, and so that could adjust things a little bit. I'm right there with you with around 28-17.
It's going to be fun. We will be back to recap it regardless what happens next week. Josh Manning, safe travels to Boston. Bart, thanks for being here. Harry James, thanks for stopping by. Always appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Talking a little SEC football. Well, Randy, you want to close up with anything?
Real fast. We'll touch just real fast. Basketball's going on. I think Oklahoma women's team has showed vast improvement. They haven't played much of anyone since that UCLA game, but the freshmen are getting some work in, which is what they really needed. I thought they needed that all along, some consistent games and playing regularly. You start to see some of those young players develop a little more here over the next few days. And then men's team, not sure. They are up big right now on Oral Roberts at halftime, but
I would hope.
The Nebraska loss on Saturday was interesting.
Yeah, Nebraska. I'd never seen OU play that bad a defense. Hopefully that gets better fast for Porter Mosier. Very important year for Porter. We'll see what happens or does not for OU basketball. All right, everybody. We will see you guys next week. For Randy Heitz, I'm Dave Myrick. This has been Red Ribbon